Hello and welcome, our beloved viewers, to RTD's News English edition. Tonight, for the highlights, we got consolidation of teachers' skills in the maintenance of vehicles with electronic injection. On the international scene in the United States, at least 8 dead in a shooting in Indianapolis. Welcome to our newsroom. That was our headlines. A technical skills training was held at League from April 11 to 15, 2021 in collaboration with the partner ADC, also known as Education Development Center. This technical skills reinforcement is conducted by the MIMFOP for the benefit of teachers of automotive mechanics. The objective of the training is to consolidate the skills of teachers in the maintenance of vehicles with electronic fuel injection, and in particular with the mastery of the use of a diagnostic kit. Under the supervision of the GM Interspectorate, an expert in mechanics from the private sector conducted the training of teachers. The participation and commitment of the teachers was very satisfactory. The training took place in a pleasing atmosphere and the teachers all participated in the practical activities. The training allowed for the exchange of experience and know-how among the teachers on the one hand and between the teachers and the trainer on the other. At the end of the training, each teacher expressed his or her experience and observations. The overall feedback was very positive. The blessed month of Ramadan is a month of refraining from eating and drinking from sunrise to sunset, which radically changes the rhythm of life in our city. This is Djibouti at the rhythm of Ramadan, a report by the editorial staff. Let's watch together. Of Ramadan, the change is radical from one day to the next, even the working hours. The hours of the administrations are now from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., the objective being to spare the workers in order to facilitate them the observation of the young person. Thus, the city is put in gear in the mornings, or each one goes to his activities, but one is far from the usual big traffic jams and the big crowds in the public places. The commercial districts know and influence the morning or the customers do not miss. The big bus station of the Blas Harbi also lives at the rhythm of Ramadan. The shuttles of buses and minibuses continue, but in a lesser measure. This life train of the city, less crowded than usual, lasts until the call of the midday prayer. From that moment on, all the market fronts start to come down. It is the closing of the market, and with it, almost all the activities of the city are paused. Only the administration will continue to function until 3 p.m., at which time the city falls into a deep lethargy. The streets are deserted. Not a cat moves. The uninformed traveler who would disembark at this time would be at the first sight struck by a ghostly state of the city. Me and my film crew are the only ones to walk in these deserted and lifeless streets, a cliché that reflects the dimension of a small town that is our city. It will be necessary to wait for the call to the afternoon prayer, Asr. The first stalls begin to unpack, and little by little, the city begins to be animated with a certain slowness until 5. From this moment, it is the fever of futur which takes the top. The markets of the fruits and vegetables are taking of assault. Each one wants to have fresh fruits to break the young person. To break, the ray watermelon sweeps the city with all the other products. Indeed, each one would like to have its slice of good watermelons for the futur, which from this rush on the salts of watermelon, this fever is going to amplify with the measurements that the call of the Maghrib approaches. At 6:20, it is the fateful hour. In other words, the fast is broken and to each his own. As soon as the Maghrib call comes, for a while the heart of the city stops beating. It is once again the all-stop sign. The city is empty of its inhabitants. Our film crew is once again alone in these abandoned streets. It won't be for long. Immediately, the city goes wild. The traffic becomes more and more dense. People with a cheerful look reappear and invade the streets, and the markets resume their activities. This ever since will last all evening and will be punctuated by the evening prayer in the Tarawih, where the faithful will go there in mass. So with the month of Ramadan, the city has gone from a diurnal to a nocturnal way of life. The city of Holhol is located more than 40 kilometers from the capital, and all its housing has been provided with electric power, which enabled its people to complete the construction of a central market that contributes to the advancement of social development and has brought about major change in the lives of residents. Let's follow this reportage for more in-depth details. Holhol, at a distance of more than 40 kilometers from the capital city. Since May 2019, Holhol is connected to the electricity network of the EDD. The entire village has access to electricity. A project implemented with the support of the World Bank, which aims to address the impacts of forced displacement and mixed migration. An achievement that has put an end to energy poverty and above all has brought great change to the lives of the population. Thus, since the electrification, the public school is illuminated. The hot seasons are less painful, and therefore learning is easier. At night, children take advantage of public lighting when they are not in front of the small screen. For many, playing under street lamps after sunset is a real novelty brought by electricity. Beyond the social aspects, this great achievement has had an immediate and direct impact in facilitating and increasing economic opportunities. From the beginning, several small shops have appeared, reinforcing those that already existed. Wholesalers have even opened their own shops. Today, one can find all the products, and especially fresh drinks, a rare commodity during the summer until recently. Encouraged by the change, young and not so young people have started income-generating activities. Their shops are open longer and thus develop their activities and increase their revenues. We used to close at 5 p.m. because it was getting dark, so we didn't work in the evening. But now we can work until 10 and even 11 thanks to the electricity. Since the electrification, we finally drink fresh coca and keep our fruits in the refrigerator. There was none of that before. It was hard without electricity, but thank God the electricity is here today. We also thank the President of the Republic, Mr. Ismail Omar Gelle, and the ADDS for both their achievements. These devices were complemented by the construction of a central market, a market that contributes to social development, a site that brings together all the sellers of fresh meat and other food products that until now exercised in a disorderly manner. Thanks to this infrastructure, the hygienic conditions have been significantly improved. Another step that satisfies the inhabitants of Holhol. A market was built here which benefits the butchers who used to sell in the streets, but also the vegetables sellers. We already had a market, but it became dilapidated. Today, we have just inaugurated a new one. We send our sincerest thanks and expect other projects to be realized as well. All these novelties, realized in less than 2 years, benefit not only the local but the refugees. These innovations have had a short-term impact on the social welfare of the population. Muhammad Jami' Adan died this week in Djibouti precisely on Monday, April 12, 2021, at the age of 73 years old. The late Muhammad Jami' Adan was the second Director General of Nurses Radio and Television of Djibouti in 1982, 5 years after the independence of the country. He contributed to the building of this institution by a notable reinforcement in human resources. One of his priorities was the training of the staff. It is within the framework of this policy that almost all the staff of the RTD benefit from training course, in particular at the INA, the National Institute of the Audiovisual, from where a first generation of journalists, technicians, cameramen, and others who took the relief of the Egyptian foreign captains. The late Muhammad Jami' Adan, a humble and generous man who marked this era. He stayed a total of 14 years at the head of this noble institution before being appointed First Consulate of Dirdawa. The Director General of RTD and the entire staff salute the memory of this man who was one of the great builders of this institution today and present their sincerest condolence to the family of the deceased. The late Muhammad Jami' Adan leaves behind a wife, 3 children, and 5 grandchildren. May Allah welcome him in his eternal paradise. Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. We have just learned with horror the death of Mr. Muhammad Abdullah occurred this Thursday afternoon at the hospital of Peltier in Djibouti at the age of 70 years old. The deceased leaves behind a widow and a daughter. Former nurse major retired but remained very active in the development of his native region, especially in the sub-prefecture of Dora, which he was elected to the regional council. He was the maternal uncle of our colleague from the Afar section, Hassan Yusuf. May God welcome him in his eternal paradise. Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Shifting gears towards the internationals now, at least 8 people are dead and several others were wounded in a shooting that occurred during the night of April 15 to 16 in a FedEx warehouse near the Indianapolis airport, reports the New York Times. To this heavy toll, state provisional comes to be added the death of the shooter who would have committed suicide after having opened fire, explains the Daily, underlying that the police are still trying to identify the author of the shooting. Several injured people, including at least one person in critical condition, have been transferred to several hospitals in the area. Life imprisonment was requested on Thursday, 15 April in Paris for the 3 Ivorian and Bulgarian defendants tried in their absence for perpetrating the 24 bombing that killed 9 French soldiers in Bouaké, Côte d'Ivoire. Untakeable for years, Yuri Shuskin, a Brazilian mercenary, and Patrice Ouyend, 2 officers of the Ivorian Air Force, are being tried before the Paris Court of the Assize for murder. The verdict is expected in the afternoon. This sentence of life imprisonment would have required in the same conditions if these people were here, if they had defended themselves, because what justifies this sentence is the unheard of violence of the facts, said the Attorney General Jean-Christophe Muller. That was it for this tonight's news, our beloved viewers. Thank you for joining us, and make sure to stick around later for the French edition version with our colleague Samater. Thank you, and spend a wonderful night. Thank you very much.